What's going on, guys? Coach Luca here, and today, this is a special one, okay? Some people asked me about this, so I wanted to combine it. If you guys have checked back on YouTube, I did a long video on basically program design as well as coaching of group training sessions. But today, I'm getting specific with it. So the DNA of running a world-class group training session, AKA this is the format. Like if you want to be the 1% of the 1% when it comes to group training, then follow this model. Now it seems like a lot, but I promise I'm going to give you some principles, some 10,000 foot view stuff, so that you can obviously apply things that are already working well for you. Because I don't want to be, if you got stuff that you're doing excellent, great, make sure you keep it in here. But I want to give you some principles, some perspectives, and then actually break down how we do it. I'm even going to insert things that we're not doing yet, but I want to implement to make it the best in the world, right? This is like best in the world type session, best in the world type mentality. Now, before I even go there, here's what's so important, okay? And being, like I said, I've been doing this for almost 20 years, ran a gym for 16 years, been doing group training for like 16, 17 years, right? And constantly trying to evolve. I can tell you that it starts with the desire and ambition to be great at this. Because all of these formats, the deal is that if you don't, at the bottom, I'll come back to this. I say it's not just what you do, but how you do it, right? So think like that Mamba mentality when it comes to like Kobe wanted to be the greatest, Jordan wanted to be the greatest. It's like, I want to be the greatest at doing group training. Now this could be, like I said, I'm going to kind of give you a pretend like this is based on a small group personal training session, but it could also be a team training. So team training is just a larger group. Small group personal training for us is like up to about 15. Yesterday we had like 16 people in class. But I've ran sessions for legitimately hundreds of people at the same time with just myself or an assistant coach. I would still follow this model, and you'll be like, wow, what do you mean? That's crazy. Or for most of you, it'll be somewhere between 8, 10, 20, 30 people, maybe a little bit more. This works no matter what. Now, here's the deal. You gotta want it, meaning you have to want to be the shit at this, right? You have to want to be great at this. And if you are, it's going to pay off. Meaning the amount of people that you have in your classes, if you're working somewhere else, you're going to have the most popular sessions. You're going to be able to demand more money. You're going to be all of those things are going to happen. I promise you that. This is how I built my group training business up, because I followed a lot of this and over the years just kept adding, kept learning, kept getting better at it. So, right, that's the pre-frame. If you think you're going to just read through this and not really be intentional and focused to try to be the 1% of the 1%, it won't matter, right? So with that, let's dive in. Okay, so at the top, this is, I think, a missed point, right? This is old school. Coaches used to say it to us all the time, right? Perfect practice prevents piss poor performance. Perfect practice prevents piss poor performance. And what I see a lot of times is that people don't practice or get prepared for sessions. It's just kind of like, I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up and I'm going to run it. It's like, man, you wouldn't do that for anything else that you wanted to be the best in the world. Think of a presentation, right? It's a performance. If you were coming out on Broadway, that's how I look at it. Martin Rooney always told me, man, you got to think like you're a performer. Your session is a performance. You're on Broadway. And guess what? Those guys are coming out every night and putting on a show and the best, right? And they got to prepare and they got to practice tirelessly, endlessly. So look, you can be okay, average, mediocre. If that's what you want. You can even be good. I don't want any of those things. I want to be the best in the world at this stuff, right? So you got to make sure you're preparing for this. Okay, so it starts with just guess what? When people say, how do you prepare for the day? And it's well, it starts the night before. Same thing here, right? How do you prepare for a great group training session? Well, the day/night before, you got to check. So we use Zen Planner for our check-in systems. There's a lot of them, right? I actually just did a speaking engagement at Vagaro Pro, who have excellent software. I don't get paid anything. We don't even use them, but I think they're excellent from what I've seen. So just having a software, because on, for instance, Zen Planner, I can see who's checked in for the group training classes here at Vigor Ground, right? When I check, I can see, okay, cool, it's regular members, and I see the names, and I see who it is, and then I'll see if somebody's new, right? Which is really important, right? And then if somebody's new, okay, what are their names? The thing is that they'll have to take a picture when they do their sign up. So now I see the face too, which is important. And of course, look, goes deeper, but I think this is critically important that when new people sign up, I didn't even write this on here. We send them a type form. Okay? Now, it doesn't have to be a type form. It can be anything. But that type form as a questionnaire talks about, we have 33 questions, and it's basically like, what is the reason that they're signing up for? Do they have support at home? What's their ideal goal from doing the program? There's a lot of questions. Now, what's important about that once we get that type form, that information, not all of it, but the main points, what's their anchor? What's their reason for instance, for joining, their true reason why they want to have this transformation. You'd write that into the CRM, right? Or you'd write that into notes, meaning if you have a customer relationship management system, like a Zenplan or a Vagaro, or like we use Namely for the CRM stuff, then you type it in so that the other coaches can see it, okay? Number two, do they have any injuries, right? Because here's the thing, how powerful it is to connect, to come in, know their name. For instance, like if you're talking and they said they have a pet, because that's one of our questions too. They know they have a pet and there's the name of the pet and you remember that. Man, you're already like on a whole nother level of customer experience there, because they're blown away that you know this stuff, right? So it starts there. So new people, names, injury history, any special things about them, because then, you can have a personal connection, right? When you come in before class. And again, we're going to talk about this, right? Because we're going to dive deeper into this. So you got to have some type of, to make this the best and ideal, you got to have some type of tracking and putting in, like I said, things from the type form. And even things like if they do a in-body, right? And they have a body fat percentage, they have a weight, they have certain markers, like for instance, for a lot of people, we'll do, a trap bar deadlift 3RM test or a max push-ups. Like it might be different, but you put it in there because then you see the progress. And again, this is deeper stuff, but this is high level 1% stuff, okay? So again, type form, CRM, personal connection. And this, I didn't even write it in here, but when you have this, the day of the session, you can personally text them because you have all their information and go like, hey, so excited to see you today at 6 p.m. in small group, right? And then something personal. Hey, let's beat that trap bar deadlift record from last week, right? Again, this is engaging. It's not generic, like, oh, it's just copy and paste stuff. It's personal, right? So again, this is higher level stuff, but it happens and it starts the day before. So from there, I've talked about this. I've done whole videos about this. One of my favorite things, which is 4x6 cards, right? So 4x6 cards are exactly what they sound like, 4x6 inches, right? They're about this big. And I would write, and I still do, right? The goals for tomorrow's day when it comes to training. I would even do it for semi-private sessions, but for group sessions, right? There'd be an outline, but I already know the outline, but it's like, is there something special that I wanted to do? I'd write the motivational message or story that I wanted to share, right? And personally, not only do I read a lot, so when I read, I always write out like stories or points or perspectives on these 4x6 cards. So I always have a stack of them. I never run out, because people are like, how do you come up with these stories? Well, one, you use examples of your own life. Two, you should read stories, study stories. When you're on IG and you see something motivational from Eric Thomas or Goggins or anything that resonates with you, well, guess what? That goes down on a 4x6 card, and then that 4x6 card gets stacked, right? Because sometimes you'll have days where you can have 10 dope, like I said, stories, boom, they're stacked. But for the next day now, you use this 4x6 card, I would have it in a pocket and basically go, all right, for team training, here's my story. I'd usually use the same story for all the group classes in the day, right? But then I'd go like, Mike's sprained his ankle during basketball, so like make adjustments, right? We might have some jumps and stuff. When you come in earlier, you'd go like, hey Mike, I know your ankle's sprained, so here's what we're gonna do. Today we got squat jumps, you're just gonna do slams, flat feet on the ground, right? Still that hingy position, right? Here when we're doing this, you're gonna be doing core work, right? So when we're doing this, boom, 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 right? So now you're already adjusting, individualizing ahead of time. And again, this is a group training session now, but this person is feeling like, damn, like this is very individualized, customized, right? Value, pops up. Okay, so 4x6 cards for me are almost like a brain outside of my brain, right? It's like, what are the things that I'm gonna do during that session that are gonna bring the extra spice? What's gonna be my story? What's gonna be my motivational message? Who are some people I need to touch points with? When I check my Zen Planner system, I can be like, oh, Tracy's new, something about her. and John's new, something about them. So for instance, John may have been referred by Barb. I'm like, hey, how you doing, John? I know Barb referred you. Hey, I'm so happy that you're here. So excited. Now I know that you have an issue with your hip, so here's what we're gonna do, right? That's blowing people away when you have that level of preparation, right? Remember, preparation, notice, we're not even on the day yet here, so we start the night before. Now, here's the thing, where does this come from? Because I said that I'm gonna share principles, like higher level perspectives. I'm also always asking myself, and this is something that you should do, which is identify the top 1 to 3 feelings to create for your client in each and every session. Now, this could be a group training session, this could be a semi-private session, it could be a one-on-one session. This is just a training philosophy. And then you're gonna build your SOPs, that's just your system, right? So system of operation, you're gonna build them and experience achieving the outcome. And so the reason why I wanted to say that is because when I go through this, I'm building it because I'm asking myself, what are 1 to 3 feelings? So one of the feelings that I want for people is connection, community. So they want to feel like they're part of something, that they're being supported, right? Another feeling is progress. If people, remember, Tony Robbins talks about like, look, if you're progressing, you're happy. Even if you're not achieving, that ideal outcome, but if you know that you're progressing, you'll be happy. So that's another thing that I want people to feel. But I also want them to feel challenged, right? And create perspective that the challenge is making them better. So again, now we're gonna build in these things into our systems. Now, you also need a structure for program design standards. Here's what's great. If you go onto YouTube and type in small group personal training program design, Luca is gonna pop up. I broke down a whole shebang. So small group training is broken down. I got another video that breaks down a whole team training. So all of that you got outlined. That's why we're covering everything else in this specific video. Okay, so when we go to the system part of this, right? These are like I said, every business, if you're a coach just solo right now running group sessions, doesn't matter. You gotta have must-haves. Like, what are the must-haves for a training session? Well, preparation requirements for a coach. Like I said, just because even if you're solo and it's just you should have this because it's, again, you're gonna be ahead of the game because you're creating systems that are replicable and repeatable. So you're repeating the same process of excellence, right? Then you wanna know, so what do you have to prepare? So we talked about this, right? Right here, preparation, the day before, and then there's a preparation day of. The session, so you wanna have about between 5 to 9, you don't wanna have more than 9 because it's too many, touch points to happen every session. So things like how does a client get greeted, how the session starts, what's happening during the session, how the session ends, and then what happens, if anything, after the session. So for instance, if it's announcements, if it's specific things that are said and done after the session, that's gotta be locked in. Now, I'm gonna break down like this as far as like what we do. And this is kind of like a higher level view, but I'm gonna give you guys examples of everything. So it kind of makes sense. Okay, so in some of this, like I learned the motivational message story from Martin Rooney, which I love, right? So when you start the session, sometimes like a motivational story or message doesn't have to be long. Matter of fact, at the beginning of the session, I wouldn't even keep it long. So think like 2 minutes or under, but I'm making a point, right? And the point might be, I'll give you guys an example of this, okay? Where it's like, hey, listen guys, one of the things that I learned from some of my friends and that I did some work with too in the military is that details matter, right? I also learned that from one of my favorite coaches, of inspiration to me, John Wooden, who was so big on details that, number one, like he would teach every basketball player to put on their socks the correct way. While it seems such a small thing, the thing is, when they put the socks on the correct way, and tied them and laced them the right way, then they wouldn't have blisters, because blisters cause people to have to get out of the games, not play the next game, not perform. So it's a little thing that matters a lot. Details matter. In the military, details matter so much that if you mess up, people can die. Okay, so here's the thing, is like our standard here at Vigor Ground is excellence. So because of that, know that I'm gonna coach you and we're gonna go over the details, right? So sometimes you'll feel like, hey, I felt like I'm doing this good. Yes, here's what's great, but I'm gonna give you more details so that we can make it excellent, right? So now I created a frame for the training session. When I create a frame from the training session, now throughout the training session, when I'm coaching, I can go like, guys, remember, details matter. Reach out on that lizard, like touch something, right? Rotate, slow it down, slow it smooth, smooth is fast, right? I'm constantly going back to that main message. And again, I'm gonna prepare for that on a 4x6 card the day before. From there, we're gonna go into dynamic warm-ups. Now, even like I said, in a structured breakdown as a small group, I said our dynamic warm-ups are anywhere from 9 to 12 minutes, right? It's not like pinpoint on a dot, but that range, 9 to 12 minutes. In that amount of time, I got a timer, right? I got a timer as I see the timer. We got to get warmed up because I got a structure for that hour-long session for small group, 45 minutes for team training, that basically I want to be able to get everything in and make sure it's crisp and on point. Then, training, nutrition, lifestyle tip mastery. This is a quickie. This is a quickie, right? So if it's a mastery thing, it might be a new exercise. It's like, guys, we're doing this new exercise. Remember, you never want to have too many new exercises, maybe 1 to 2. Otherwise, it becomes overwhelming. So from there, I'm going to show the exercise and teach it with mastery, okay? Now, I may have a nutrition tip and be like, listen, guys, we talked about the importance of protein. Having 30 to 40 grams of protein with every meal is so important. It's one of the highest kind of points in lifestyle habits that you can do. Here's why, right? It's like 30, 50, 60 seconds. Boom, we rock and roll. From there, I'm going to break down the training session. It's really important. I've seen both sides of this. I've seen the training session just being broken down like on the board, like we're doing this, boom, and you go, which I don't think is great because new people will get overwhelmed because they're new and they're like, whoa, what's going on? And people that have been there for a while might be like, yeah, okay, cool, let's rock and roll. But I think you have to break it down and explain it, but not make it too long. So if you're demoing for 5 minutes after the warm-ups, people cool down, right? So we demo quickly and efficiently and show things, again, that are like, for instance, I like to make it visual. I give verbal cues. So it might be like, all right, guys, when we're doing a kettlebell deadlift, here's the thing. I want you to stay tall on a string. I want you to rip the bell apart, clavicles apart, brace for the punch, and I'm going to start with the hips, hinge back, push the feet into the ground when we come up, right? And I'm giving a quick intro and explanation, but my point is that like I'm going to go through this fast, clear, and precise, which again, I need to prepare for. Because if I'm not prepared and I don't practice it beforehand, it's going to take me too long and too short. Like I have to be on point here. Again, we're talking about the highest level training session. From there, we do the actual training session, right? So I wrote it down twice, but we actually do the training session, right? Meaning now, when we do the training session, I'm going to come back into that DNA of the training session while we're coaching how that should look like. From there, what I forgot to enter here is we always do this, by the way, right? Is a finisher. Like finishers are anywhere from like 3 to 5 minutes long. And one of the things about finishers, you know, when you look at like when people who talk about the exercise science part of it, like, hey, what does it do? Listen, the finisher is more about coming together, doing something challenging. When I said I want challenge in one of the 3 days feelings, guess what? This is one of them. Right? We're going to push them. And during the finisher, I always want to like say, hey, listen, when you want to quit, because it's safe exercise. It's usually body weight, core finishers, you know, leg matrix finishers, upper body stuff. And it's like, hey, don't let the editor inside of your head tell you that like you can't do this. Push through, right? So one, it gets people to overcome an obstacle, which is powerful because we're helping them become more resilient mentally, not just physically, but mentally. And it brings people together. When people struggle together, it builds community. A great book from Sebastian Junger talks about this called Tribes. It's excellent. And so we kind of, I would say, orchestrate this because it's powerful to build community, to get people to become mentally stronger. So there's a finisher always after we get done with the sessions, a small finisher. Now, after the finisher, we have a team huddle, right? Bring it in. And again, during a team huddle, I'll tell a story. Again, story can be really short. Sometimes it can be a short point. So I've told stories that are 2-3 minutes long, right? And engaging. But the story always has a point that helps people with something, okay? So let's say I started with a motivational message and I was like, hey, details matter. And at the end, I talk about a personal story, right? Where, for instance, where I failed because I didn't pay attention to the details and how I later learned from it. And then those details, when I applied the details, I was successful. Because now that this person will go like, man, like, okay, details matter. So they start applying that into nutrition, into lifestyle, into all these other things in their life, right? So after finisher, team huddle story, and then recovery. Recovery, again, if it's shorter classes, we try to have people do that by themselves, meaning like, hey, do 5 minutes of breathing drills, which we teach. Go put your legs up against the wall, decompress the spine. We have stuff where people can actually, you know, flip upside down, decompress the spine, go on a bike, do light cycling, right? Just cool down, because we don't want people to train really hard, be super sympathetic, and then leave here, you know, sit in the car, go straight to stress mode, right? We want them to calm down. And so one of the things is that like, that I learned that is from a book that actually is called The Power of Moments from Chip and Bob Bergen, Chip and Dan Heath, and they talk about like there's two parts that people remember out of any experience. It's the peak or the low part of it and the ending, okay? So this is why this is so important, because we're affecting the ending here, right, by making it memorable. They overcame a challenge. We told a story that connects, that's emotional, and that was the peak of their experience, or should I say the ending of the experience. So they remember that. So that means they got those last 3%, we can affect how people think about that, that whole session. Very, very powerful. And like I said, I wanted to always think about how we can make that session better based on the psychology of how humans, I would say, experience things. Now, one of the things that we have here is the PR bell. You guys can't see it, but it's right there. So that's our personal record bell. So whenever anybody hits a PR, whether it's in a semi-private session, like a small group training session, if I know that person hit a PR, I'm like, go ring the PR bell. So they'll run to the PR bell, ring it. Everybody in the gym goes like, yeah, let's go. High fives, right? And what happens to them? Like, they get super pumped up, and they anchor that feeling to your space, to your community, to your coaching. And so again, these are things that we can put in to make that experience better and make sure that that person, not only, like I said, it feels more connected, but feels like a winner that they are, and it's part of this experience. And then Martin Rooney a long time ago told me like, hey, how good is your high five, right? And for me, like anytime I come into the building, I'm high-fiving people, fist bumping people, hugging people, right? I usually have a thing with each individual, right? But those things are really important. Like you think like it's a small thing, but it's actually a big thing, right? And I box those in because, like I said, you want to look at those experiences and go like, how can we implement this into the session? So that's our breakdown right here. Now, once we go into the session, right? So we looked at it from a little bit of a bird's eye view here. Now we go into the session. So here's like actual tactical or strategic things that we want to have, okay? And I'm gonna go on to like both sides of kind of the coin here, but this is things that you can implement. You can look at this and go like, hey, we're already doing some of this, or maybe we need to implement more of this. But again, go back to the big picture and implementation. So we want to check in beforehand, be early. So I always said like be 15 minutes early to every group training session. Now you might be coaching before, so you're already there, but you want to prepare, right? And if, like I said, if you checked your exam planner for that day, you'll know who's coming. If it's a new client, what I highly recommend, and they don't know your face, like just shooting a video and be like, hey Mary, so excited to see you in class today. Can't wait to see you. I'll be there early if you got any questions. Let's have an awesome session. I'll make sure you're safe, that you have the best experience. Looking forward to it, right? So now, and you text them that, and it's like, oh wow, now they have a name to a face. They got a greeting. It's very personal. Again, most people just don't do this stuff, right? But this is just genuine care, because remember, you got to give a damn about this, okay? But very, very, very. Now, does that mean that you can't do that with current clients? Of course you can, right? Especially sometimes you can talk smack. Like if somebody's been there for a long time, you have a good relationship, and you know, pump them up. I've sent videos many a times where I'll say like, hey, listen, like I don't know how you're feeling today, but you better get this damn PR. I'm amped up. I'm ready. Let's go, right? People will love that stuff, right? People will love that stuff. Now you got to know each individual. Notice how one video was different for somebody you don't really know, right? But it was welcoming, caring, making sure you're safe. And then the other one was like you're getting riled up because you know that person, they know that appreciate it, right? But that's preparation again, right? Where the day of, you can send these personal things out. It can be a text, it can be a video. From there, you want to set the environment, music, equipment, etc., right? Remember, it's a show. I want you to really think about this, okay? Really think about this, okay? So if I gave you an opportunity, and for instance, I was just in Strong, New York, in New York speaking, and I was like, okay, look, this is going to be big names. I'm going to be headlining this. I got to be prepared. You know, I was preparing the presentation. I was thinking about who's going to be in the crowd, and you know, without more details, like, man, killed the presentation, put a lot of time and effort into thinking about it, practicing through it, and, you know, spoke to somebody where a really big, amazing thing may happen because of that. Because I was like, I'm going to put on a damn show, and I'm going to prepare the hell out of that show so that it looks and feels amazing. Everybody gets a ton of value from it. So this is really important, right? Like, think through the music for the group training, right? Set up the equipment. If you're already coaching people beforehand, well, that means you're going to have to set it up before that. If you have other coaches in the gym, coordinate with them, communicate with them, like, hey, listen, I've got a class going on, I'm going to do this, use this. Is that cool? What are you using? Right? Making sure that, like, you're, again, so it's not like a scramble when you get to it. Okay? Really, really important thing. From there, changing energy throughout the session. Now, like this is a really, really kind of important thing that most folks don't do. A lot of people will do what, like crank the music and just be loud, like, go, let's go, yeah, woo, like, you know, kill it, kill it, kill it. That's not coaching. Now, I think there's an implement of that you need in coaching, but to me, I think of it like a roller coaster, right? Like we're gonna crescendo it. So when people come in, first of all, they're actually usually stressed out, right? They come to a group training session and they're stressed out. So I always say like this, if somebody's at a 5 out of 10 on a scale of like energy, I'm gonna try to bring them up 1 to 2 points. I'm gonna try to bring them from a 5 to a 7, okay? Now, if they're a 10, I'm actually gonna try to bring them down 1 or 2, because I don't want them to be too riled up. But when we start the warm-ups, we actually wanna start, right? I'm gonna put it up here in the corner, but it's like, we wanna start here, right? So we wanna start here. So warm-ups first, we do breathing and mobility drills and like really low level stuff that actually calms people down. And then we start ramping up the warm-ups, right? And then we do the motivational story. And then remember, then once we start explaining the class, people aren't gonna be ramped up. Then when we start the class, man, we ramp it up, okay? But let's say I got a 6 to 8 minute density block and we're pushing, I'm coaching the hell out of it. Man, the energy and the music's gonna be high. And then we got a little break, I bring it back down, right? I'm telling people to breathe. So it's like, hey, breathe out through your mouth fully, inhale through your nose. Let's bring that heart rate down. I'm gonna start telling, like I said, bringing back that motivational message story throughout that, and then we're gonna ramp it back up again, right? So, but imagine like I'm changing the energy, because if the energy's constantly just riled up, they're not having the greatest experience. Okay, so that's what I mean by changing energy throughout the session. Because once we get to the finisher, guess what? Like the energy is gonna be like, whoo, sky high, and then we bring it back down and we have this motivational message, and then we have that recovery. Right? So they're on a journey, right? So this is really important, and it's a thing that a lot of people don't think about and do. From here, saying everybody's names a minimum of 6 times. We used to, you know, I used to have like hey, say it a minimum of 3 times, but like we bumped that up, minimum of 6 times. Challenge yourself, even 10. Now I'd say this, the smaller the class is, it should be more like a 10. The bigger it gets, you can drop it down to a 6, maybe even a 5. Like I said, we've had, you know, if I have a charity boot camp with 100+ people and I don't know a lot of them, that's obviously challenging, where it's ideal to give people stickers with their name on when they come in, you know, a little trick, because guess what? Then now I can still keep saying their name because I see their name on their shirt, right? But the point is, like, the most beautiful sound to any human being is their name. I know it is for me, it is for anybody else. That's why you can be in a room of 1,000 people, yell somebody's name, and they're gonna turn around. But you could yell a lot of different things, they won't turn around. So this, again, this is part of a system, okay? It's part of a system. From there, this is another extremely tactical, let's say tactical thing, I think very, very important when it comes to group coaching. And you gotta practice this. It's called general, specific, individual, right? And usually when we do coaching, we'll go general, general, specific, individual. General means that I'm coaching cues that it will work for everybody in the class. So for example, if I say, have a tall spine, somebody's pulling you by a string on the top of your head. Okay, now if I'm doing a push-up, does that count? Yes. If I'm doing a goblet squat, does that count? Yes. If I'm doing a deadlift, does that count? Yes, I want that head on a string. If I'm doing a TRX throw down, I want that, yes. Right, so literally the whole class, what they're doing, that cue works. So that's general. Even though I'm yelling it out, general, right? Have a super tall, have a tall spine, you're getting pulled by a string. Brace for a punch to your stomach. Does that work for goblet squats? Yes. Deadlifts? Yes. Lunges? Yes. Right? Again, it works for everything. So I'm going general, right? Your head is on a string, you're pulling by a string. Brace for that punch. Then I'm gonna go specific. I'm gonna go specific, so I'm gonna go like, if you're doing kettlebell deadlifts, push the ground away. So instead of pulling with your back, you're actually pushing with your hips. But I called it out, right? Now I went from general, I went to specific, right? So specific now is like that exercise. And think about this, in any coaching setting I could do this, right? I could be coaching basketball and going like, hey, this group, if you're doing this, right, do this specific thing. If you're doing goblet squats, pull yourself down into the squat and push the ground away, right? Again, I'm going specific, general, specific, and individual. Now, individual is like, I'm going to the individual. So let's say somebody's doing a kettlebell deadlift and their knees are flying far forward. They're kind of squatting it, right? And I'm gonna go block their knee with my knee, right? So it's like a wall. So now they can't go forward. I give them a kinesthetic cue, boom, and now they have to go butt back. right? I'm going like, hey, let's get your hips back first. I verbally said it, but now I'm going to give them a restriction. Now they go forward. Okay, can't go here. Hips go back. And I go, great job, Jenny. Way to push your hips back. Now push the ground away. So I just coached them individually, right? And I gave them like a shine a light on the good thing they're doing. Great job by pushing your hips back. Great job by pushing the ground away. Boom, and I move on. And I go general, specific, general again. And then the specific might be the push-up. Spread your fingers, push through the knuckle into the ground, right? I'm going to go specific to that drill, and bam, I go to the next individual, and I coach them up. Now, what does this mean? This means that coaching is intensive. This means that you can't stand in the corner with a stopwatch, yelling, cranking the music up, and that's what that's doing is it's hiding that you're not coaching, right? Because group coaching, when done at a 1% or 1% level, is very challenging, but it's very fulfilling. So it's going to fill up your, I would say, your mental and emotional tank, but it's going to empty your tank as far as like, man, I'm putting out a lot of myself, right? But if you want to be the best in the world type of stuff like that, this is what you got to do. So this is crucial, and like this needs to be practiced. I would actually implore you to do it in staffs, to have to actually have a coach assess another coach once a month to their class. Even if it's you should be the shining example. If you're a one person show right now, man, you got to be the star of this, and like you got to become the best in the world at this stuff, because then you can teach it to others because you're a shining example of this. Okay, so general, specific, individual. I love this. I could go on all day about this, but it means that you got to be moving around. And I got a whole bunch of other points here on the other side that we'll cover in a little bit. But in a group training session, you cannot stand still. So one of the things that when it was still called a boot camp, and we went from boot camp to team training, that made us known and why we grew a lot was because people would say, man, there's 20 plus people in a class, but I feel like Luke is always there, right? Because again, I was moving around. So I was saying general cues, so people are thinking I'm coaching them. Then I would go specific. Then I'm tapping them kinesthetically, like, right? We're correcting form, we're saying, or also, I'll talk about this later, like showing different forms of correction. So if I might explain it verbally and go like, hey, be on a string, push your hips back. Okay, so that's a verbal explanation. And visually, I'm gonna go like, I don't want you guys to be here. I want you to have a proud chest, right? So right now you're doing this, but I want you to go arch the back, put the chest out, right? So I'm showing them a mirror image and going like, you're doing this, try to do it like this. That helps for a lot of people. Kinesthetic means I'm actually giving them some touch points, right? I'm putting my hand down their spine and going like, I want you to contour to it. Get your spine away from my finger. Okay, so there's a ton, you have to have a toolbox of coaching cues to be able to like move fast with them and individually correct. Because one cue is gonna work for one person, one cue is gonna work for another person, and it's gonna be different. So this is why this is a whole toolbox, and I would say maybe another deep dive vlog just for that another day. But this is very important. And again, coach everybody individually at least 2 times. This is a minimum. The smaller the class, that number should go up. The larger the class, that number should be at least that. 100 people, coach them twice. Right? I have a great story when we did a grand opening of this location here, and we have 3 classes of 120 people, 120 people, 100 people. So it's 340 people in 3 hours or in 3 group sessions. I was on mic, I had some assistants, and Jay Ferrugia, a good friend of mine that was here for the grand opening, said, man, like that's insane. Like you coached everybody like multiple times throughout that session. Now I was sweating bullets, tell you that right now, but guess what? That was the rule. That's what I did. You connect with everybody, and then 100 plus people are like, damn, man, I'm getting coached in this massive session. So again, this is a huge differentiator for you, huge differentiator. Be early, stay late to connect. Because if I come early and I do my homework, now I can come in, and when people are there 5 minutes before, 7 minutes before, 3 minutes before, I can connect with them because I know what they're going through. I can know their dog's name. I can know what's going on. And that connection, like every session, imagine they're coming to a session 3 to 4 days a week. In a year, you're connecting 150, 200 times with specific people. And obviously not always the same, but man, that's a game changer, right? Because there's a contrast if they're not getting that somewhere else. And then here's the thing, another big one, promise you, people sometimes start doing this, but I rarely see it. I legitimately see it 1% of people or less do this, which is like write a summary and notes of that session for yourself, but also to follow up. So, what went well, what didn't do well, what you want to do better next time. This can be quick. This can be 3 to 5 minutes for yourself in notes, in an Evernote, in a Word doc, whatever, or like I said, even in a CRM for yourself if you're using it. And in notes like, this person didn't do well with this, find an alternate exercise. this person crushed this. This person had a pain doing an exercise last time, but with some coaching cues, here were the coaching cues, they did better. Right? Now, you might not be able to, like you had a class of 20 people, maybe, again, you won't be able to do it for everybody, but like what are some things that stood out? Write them down, and again, what can you improve? Imagine throughout the year, and I'm gonna use like, generic numbers, but like you do that 3 times a week for 52 weeks, you got 160 almost like notes and summaries of how to improve, and you're improving as a group training instructor. And also you're connected, because these folks, when you have some notes, you're going to follow up with them after the session, and we'll talk about that on the side. So here's another part of like what we want to make sure that happens, right? Which is, look, we want to demonstrate well, clearly, and to different fitness levels. Again, I've talked about this where if we have a main exercise like this, and this is kind of like our core 0, like this is like our base, we want to have 2 regressions, 1 progression. You can have 2, but one is usually enough. And then we want to have 1 what's called lateralization, right? Lateralization is like, it's not the same pattern, but it might work the same muscle. So for instance, if somebody can't do a squat, right? And none of the squat patterns are going to work from there. But listen, what we're going to do is we might do a hip thrust with a pause. We might do a sled push, right? A lateralization that's going to still work for them. So in the system, every coach should be able to go like boom, 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 right? Because now we can quickly move and individualize things throughout that. We want to demonstrate well and clearly. Again, going back to preparation, if you can't do that and be crisp and clear to like where a 6-year-old can understand it, you got to continue to work on that, right? It's very important. Use as much hands-on training as possible, all senses. So I talked about like visual, right? Showing, seeing, cueing, things like push the ground away, proud chest, right? Rip the bell apart, right? So these are all verbal cues, but they have good analogies, right? So you do a broad jump and say, hey, when you land, don't splash the puddle, right? If I land like this, I'm splashing the puddle. If I land soft, like a ninja, right? There's so many different cues. Now, again, it's visual, but I'm creating analogies and creating similes. And also kinesthetic, right? Kinesthetic is where I'm gonna actually like, soft, like somebody might be doing an RDL on complete locked out knees and kind of bending, and I'm like, hey, soften the knees. So I'm gonna push their knees forward, right? Drive the hips back. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna chop them here on a kettlebell swing. So they're bending here first. I'm gonna put my hand on their back, right? I might be like doing this, like, hey, rip those clavicles apart. Okay, cool. Squeeze the shoulder blades, right? So I might be touching there. So use as many hands-on training, use as much hands-on training as possible. Somebody's doing a push-up, their hips are dropping. Bring their hips. Like, is that okay if I touch your hips? Yes. Right. Ask for permission. Boom. Bring them up. Tuck them under. Right. So again, that's real coaching, guys. That's real coaching. So from here, read body language. Involve clients in structure interaction time. So involving clients even between breaks, right? So let's say we usually have about a 2.5. If we're doing density blocks, there's a 2.5 minute break. Intervals might be a 90-second break, right? In between there, like going up to a person, multiple people, and going like, hey, what do you find challenging about that? What do you feel like you did well, right? Asking them questions, interacting, structuring that too. At the end of sessions before we do the huddle, like a lot of times I'll say like, hey, listen guys, was that challenging, right? Did you at one point in time want to quit? Yeah. And what did you do? Hey, Sarita, what was going on through your mind, right? And you engage the people, right? And they give an answer like, that's awesome, man. I loved it. Like, I love it. You overcame your inner editor, right? So again, you're creating that, and that should be planned. That should be in your 4x6 cards. You're thinking about that stuff. Also, read body language to know how to connect and coach, right? So like for instance, I might have a former athlete, they're gung-ho, they're kind of going off. I can engage with them like, let's go. Come on, pick it up, man. That's looking too light. That's looking too light. Now, I'm not going to do that with a new client that's maybe in their 50s and they're looking timid and their body language is like, they just want to feel safe. I'm going to bring down my tone and go like, all right, Jenny, let's go through this exercise. You're going to push your hips back. All right, drive slowly to the wall. Like I'm going to talk different tone. Great job. Awesome, right? But then I might go over 15 yards and go like, come on, man, pick this shit up. Let's go, right? Because again, I'm reading body language. I'm reading connection. And I'm learning about each person. You gotta be able to learn and read body language because that is part of your job, right? Because if I have a tone that's not gonna resonate with this person, I might, disconnect them, and now all of a sudden, they're going into threat mode. No personal feedback after the session and questions, right? So this is, again, great. This is why after the session, staying for 15 minutes. Now, if you're starting a new session, there should be some break time because you want to set up the next session and you want to have some time with clients. And feedback might be like, hey, like your progress from the last 2 weeks to today was awesome. Something I want you to work on, right? Ankle mobility is still there. Hey, I'm going to send you, is it cool if I send you a couple exercises for you to work on your ankles? Yeah, absolutely, right? Personal connection, personal feedback, game changer, okay? And also, again, we talked about taking notes so that we know what to follow up with for each client. And then feedback box, anonymous link. I think this is super, super powerful, which meaning that go like, hey, listen guys, like, if I'd love your feedback, good or bad, you know what I mean? Like if a complaint is a gift, it makes us be better. It's hard to hear, but hey, look, we want to always improve. So, you know, either a feedback box, we've had it at the front. The problem is when people are doing that, then what can happen is that, you know, somebody sees that they're doing it and then they know it's them. Anonymous link, I think, is the best one, which is like, hey, listen guys, I'm going to send you all an anonymous link for some feedback, just 3 questions. And I'd love if you filled it out. I won't know who it's coming from, you know, but all of the feedback is great. What's good, what's bad, so we can make it better. And then when they doesn't know it's them, you can see, you might hear some hard stuff, but what it will do, will keep you honest and it will keep you being better and improving when it comes to your group training sessions. And again, listen, on this side, the last thing I got here is just, it's not about what you do, but how you do it. If you care, if you give a damn, if you want to be the best at this, then guess what? You're going to take the time, you're going to practice it to be sensational. Because, all right, as we go here, listen, these are kind of like the bullet points of, I still think I want to touch on that what makes a world-class training session. But, you know, when people started saying like one-on-one training is dead, then they said group training is dead, then this is dead, then that's dead, then gyms are dead, nothing's dead, right? If you're exceptional at what you do, you'll stand out like a fart in the elevator and you will be successful and you'll constantly get more and more opportunities, and this is what it's all about. So let's look at some of the, I would say, kind of more bullet points that I feel like are important. So look, the first thing is like trainer starts the session on time, and it might seem like a thing. It's like, yeah, of course. Guess what? Again, you know, be prepared, be ahead of time, start on time. These are important things. Genuinely greets each client with their name, right? Just going up to, you know, because the tendency can always be that folks that are more social and outgoing tend to take up your time and talk to you more, and then people that don't. So which means, and it's very easy to gravitate to the easier, more comfortable thing is to socialize with the people that are already more outgoing, which is why it's so important to genuinely greet and connect with each person, right? Especially new people, like I said, it's so important, but just going up to every person, hey Mary, how you doing, right? Awesome, like, you sore from last week? What about this, that, the other, right? Quick connection, but you're taking the time. Make them feel appreciated. Hugs, high fives. I mean, I got tons of different kind of, I would say, signals and signs that we do with people. Everybody's individual, but man, it shows, like I said, genuinely do it, show that you care. It goes a long way. Always keep an eye out for new clients. You know, I want to keep rephrasing this because, like, if I have a group of 20 people and 2 are new, and 18, you know, out of those 18, half have been here for, you know, 3 months, and then half have been here for years or whatever. I'm going to keep it like that's going to be the level of, like, I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to the new folks, right? And then a little less, but still more to the people that have only been here for months. And then, again, a little less. Not to say, like, I'm going to still coach my butt off, but I'm going to just keep a little bit more focus on those new people, making sure that they're dialed in, that their form's on point, coaching them a little bit more. Highlight new people and create connections. So, like, hey, listen, so excited that today we have, you know, this person in class. Say hi to Mary. Say hi to John, right? Everybody says hi. Hey, like, we're so excited to have them, you know, and thankful and honored to be able to, you know, that they chose us to do their group training with, right? And then I'm going to couple them too. Like, what I'm going to do is couple the new people with new people, and the next round mix them up with more people so that they get as much connection as possible. But again, you want to be, if you prepared and you saw that in the Zen Planner, or whatever software that you have, now you can prepare that. Like, it can be on your 4x6 card and you can plan it, right? And this is why I notice, again, check the software, right? And again, if you don't have any software yet and you're a one-man show, still, like, you know what, have a piece of paper, have an Excel sheet, have something that you know who's coming. The smaller it is, obviously it's easier to connect because you don't have as many people. As the more people that you have, you know, with us, like in Slovenia, we have 450 members. Here we have 200 members. You know, like, you want to make sure that you have, again, more contact points, and the technology should help you be more personal, right? It shouldn't replace being personal. It should help you with it. Check in on emotional state. Like, hey, how you feeling today? oh man, I'm feeling really sore. Hey, listen, don't, if we got intervals, this, that, the other, hey, back off. You know what, like, don't go for a PR today. Just back off. Usually you're doing 315 for 3. Today, go like 255, but just lift it faster. But hey, you should feel like you got some stuff left in the tank, right? Somebody's like, hey man, I feel awesome. I feel energetic. Awesome. Let's go for some PRs today, right? But just check in on them. How you feeling? Talk a little bit, connect a little bit. Set expectations for the session. This can basically be the breakdown. Like guys, as you know, we got block 1, strength and power, block 2, muscle building, block 3, we're doing conditioning. Hey, we're gonna have the best damn session today. We talked about how details matter. Here's the thing, I want you to focus on form, and then guess what? If you can keep pushing it, push it, but the excellence, the form has to be excellent. That's our foundation. We're gonna be Chris, we're gonna help our teammates out, support them, be contagious, be positively contagious, bring them up, so on and so forth, right? Remember, help people get 1% better, which means progress. Now, you could have 9 different exercises, 8 different exercises in a group training session. Even if you help somebody progress in 1 or 2 of them, you're helping them progress. That's a huge win, right? And you can shine a light on that. You can highlight that and go like, hey, listen, you improved here. You went from 8 reps to 9 reps. You did this to that, right? But push them a little bit. You might not be able to push them on everything. That's okay. But constantly helping people progress and showing them that they're progressing is magical, right? And then push them to the limits, to the outer limits of their greatness. That's why they're here. So being safe, being smart, but guess what? People aren't fragile, right? Challenge them, push them, because what they'll do is associate the place your gym, with getting better, with being challenged in life and improving, right? So again, making sure and doing it in a way where it's compassionate, right? It's you show people that you care about them. That's why the whole connection part matters so much, because the more that you connect to people, then the more you can actually challenge them. I always say, the bigger the challenge, the bigger the support has to be, which is why stuff like, ebooks don't work as much, because it's here's your program, right? It's challenging. 0 support. I can talk to you, I can't reach out. Why is the gym so good, right? Higher challenge, but hey, you got accountability from the coaches, you got accountability from people on a journey just like you got accountability from people that are ahead of you that have achieved the goals that you've achieved, right? That's why it's so powerful. So push them over the limits. Trainer works room with energetic pace and authority. You got to work the room. I'm all over the place, right? My tone is higher, my tone's lower. But the thing is, I'm controlling the room. I remember it's a show. Prepare for it like a damn show for you to be at the excellence, right? Inspirational energy is used during finishers. If you ever watch me do a class during finishers, I'm definitely getting the most live, right? Because that's what, we got 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and we're getting after it. People are tired, but we're pushing them to their outer limits of their greatness. And it's I can't be all right, guys, come on, let's go. I'm rocking, right? I'm walking through the group. I'm going, let's go. I'm stopping at each and every person. Come on, let's go. You got this. Push this. Come on, don't break, right? So again, I'm going to use that inspirational energy the most during that ending that we talked about, right? The power of moments. People remember the ending. Personal accomplishments are celebrated, including PRs. We talked about that, ringing the PR bell. But anything, right? If somebody accomplished, they got their first push-up, right? They did something with better form. They got more cows on a bike in a specific test. And always shine a light on it and let other people know, let it be celebrated as a community. Trainer brings something extra and special to each session. Now look, this is kind of I'm going back to this idea that you are, every session is its own session. I love watching, here's the deal, right? I love watching Chef's Table, because it's art of cooking, right? You're cooking up a great session. And I look at it that same way, where the person makes a meal, it's every meal they're putting their love into it, they're bringing something special to it. Listen, I'm speaking to you wanting to be the 1% of the 1%, being the best in the world at group training. So that's how you got to operate, to not just be the same, but bring something a little extra, bring something a little wow. And here's the thing that I didn't mention, but it's doing this, okay? Ask yourself, how can I create a wow experience every training session? And once a month minimum, doing something hey, guys, listen, got everybody a smoothie, right, at the end of the training session. And maybe, like I said, you brought it in, and it's you don't have a Fit Bar like we do, but you went to the store and got some pure proteins and gave everybody pure protein. Or you got everybody a coffee if you do a morning session. Hey, listen, guys, I got everybody a coffee, right? It's a little above and beyond, right? Hey, listen, guys, I got everybody a gift card for Buna Buna Coffee. It's a local coffee spot. I love it, okay? Again, these are little above the top experiences, But this is part of, to me, bringing something special and extra to every session. Not just your energy, but something that people are not expecting, right? It's like you're going above and beyond for it. Trainer checks in with each client on individual accomplishments. So afterwards, again, if you got time, but if not because it's a bigger class, text in and go like, hey, great work today. Or even being like, hey, I saw you a little tired today. Make sure you get extra rest tomorrow. Instead of doing the warrior class, go to the rebound workout, right? If you can't go to rebound workout, here's a little recovery session for you. Okay, like this is personal, like we're in a group session, but it's personal check-ins. It'll take you 5 to 10 minutes maybe, right, to check in with folks. But this is really, really important. It's, again, it's something that a lot of people don't do, but it can be a game changer for you. A genuine thank you. Now listen, sound corny, okay? But saying like, hey, thank you for letting me coach you, right? Because it's an honor. And I think people forget in fitness today that it's an honor for somebody to invest in, not only invest, but invest their time, energy, and money with us, but entrust us that we're going to be the people to help them get to their fitness and health goals, right? And keep that in mind as you're doing everything, guys, because it's like, I think people lose mind of that, become very entitled, and it's like if you genuinely say thank you and you honor that, it's a game changer. It means a lot to people, okay? And then at the end, the trainer will email or text no-shows, like checking in with them, hey, everything okay? Didn't see you in today, missed you, how you doing, how you feeling? And like little stuff like that, again, like means the world, okay? So make sure that you're doing that. And not only, again, with the check-in when it comes to, I would say, people afterwards, if they were there, right? Like shining light on what they did great. Hey, awesome session today. I thought your energy was off the chain, and like you spread it to other people as well, right? So, again, guys, this is a lot, but I said like I'm going to give you a blueprint, okay, a blueprint for success when it comes to running group training sessions. So apply this, and it may be like, start progressing and just like, hey, I'm not doing this, okay, I'm going to do this. But you gotta practice it. You can't just look at this and go like, oh, great, now I'm gonna just read off of that stuff and then just knock it out tomorrow. Like you gotta like really, really practice it, become a master of this, and put in the deliberate hours of focused, intentional, like drilling to do this, right? And give a shit, like just give a damn. I call it, as Vigaro speaking, I said, your give a fuck factor has to be high, right? If it's low, all of this stuff won't matter because you just won't do it with gusto. And with that said, I'd love your feedback. Like I said, what more would you like to see when it comes to the breakdown of the blueprints for success and excellence in this industry? Drop them below, but implement this, and I will see you next time. Coach Luca, peace out.